Results are in for elections to the members section of Labour's National Executive Committee. The NEC is the party's ruling body. It decides on things like rule changes, selections, and disciplinary processes. And these were the winners. So it's a fairly complicated voting process, single transferable vote, which is why it shows you what round these people were elected on. So in first place, you've got Luke Akehurst, then Jess Barnard from Momentum. You can see in brackets here what faction they're from. Joanna Baxter, Labour to win, that's the Labour right. Gemma Bolton, Momentum. Anne Black, Open Labour, so they're sort of self-described centre of the party grouping. Abdi Dwale from Labour to win. Yasmin Dar from Momentum. And then the big surprise here, the big standout, is in 8th place, you've got Naomi Wimborne-Adrissi from Jewish Voice for Labour. Closing it, you've also got Gurinder Singh Josan from Labour to win. So what you can see there, you've got 3 candidates from Momentum who've got through, 4 candidates from Labour win, that's the Labour right, who've got through, 1 from the centre, from Open Labour, and then, really surprising there, a candidate from Jewish Voice for Labour. That's surprising because Naomi wasn't on any of the main slates. She gained prominence as a member of the pro-Corbyn group Jewish Voice for Labour and for defending members suspended for alleged anti-Semitism. That resistance to Starmer's narrative on anti-Semitism would lead to Naomi being suspended in December 2020. That was after suggesting publicly that anti-Semitism in Labour had been weaponised. She was readmitted 9 months later. Now, I'm sure it will come as no surprise to our viewers what followed Naomi's surprise election to the NEC. The Jewish Labour movement, that's the faction or a faction allied with the party's right, responded by saying this: "An otherwise positive set of results in Labour's NEC ballot has been marred by the election of Naomi Wimborne-Adrissi, a senior member of Jewish Voice for Labour who actively deny the scale and severity of Labour's anti-Semitism problem." That statement was approvingly shared by the Labour right MP Margaret Hodge, who said this: "This is a disappointing result, especially for Jewish Labour members and the Jewish community. But Keir Starmer has worked tirelessly to rid our party of anti-Semitism. I have complete faith that he and the party will not let this set us back. This journey was always going to be hard." Former Labour MP Ruth Smeeth chimed in saying this: "In an otherwise good set of results, I'm horrified by this one. UK Labour has come so far in tackling anti-Semitism since the EHRC report, thanks to the leadership of Keir Starmer, and for that I'll be forever grateful. We need to make sure that we keep fighting the good fight." And the Jewish Board of Deputies, Jewish Leadership Council and Community Security Trust released this joint statement: "The Labour Party under Keir Starmer has worked hard with input from all of us on challenging and rooting out anti-Semitism from within its own ranks. Today's National Executive Committee election results represent a backward step in tackling the toxic legacy of anti-Jewish racism from Jeremy Corbyn's leadership at the Labour Party. Despite the progress that has been made since then, this vote demonstrates the scale of the challenge still remaining for the party. In Naomi Wimborne-Adrissi, an extreme wing among grassroots Labour members have elected someone who stood on a platform to reverse the positive steps the party leadership have taken and who has a history of repeatedly defending individuals expelled for anti-Semitism and other offences. The Labour Party must be clear that it will not allow this result to damage the progress achieved so far. Ms Wimborne-Adrissi should play no part in the disciplinary functions of the NEC and be kept off any committees relating to equalities or the tackling of anti-Semitism." Now, to see what all the fuss is about, I spoke earlier to Naomi Wimborne-Adrissi. I began by asking her how she feels about her election win and the backlash that it has provoked.
I'm delighted to have been elected. Obviously, myself and 13 organisations fought a very comradely but consistent battle to try and get our names out there and to get the grassroots 5 elected. The fact that 4 of us did win, and commiserations to Mish Rahman, who's been an excellent NEC rep for CLP members, 4 of us were successful. It's a testament to the fact that the membership which survives, that is those who have not been suspended, expelled or left in despair, have a need for representation. They need to see that there are left-wing voices on the NEC that are going to stand up for radical politics that is necessary if the Labour Party is going to be relevant to the mass of people in the country. And also they want to have representatives who will speak out for members' democracy, for the right to debate and discuss freely. Honestly, I think most of us feel that if the party is to have any legitimacy as a potential party of government, it's got to be seen to be one which respects its own members and which is capable of managing differences. If you can't manage differences within your own party, how can you possibly be accessible to the huge range of opinion around the country? And in terms of the backlash, it was obviously to be expected given the history. I was quite surprised at the speed and ferocity of it. It was obviously very well coordinated and thought out in advance. I've been very gratified to see the pushback on Twitter in particular from people saying, do you really think it is a good look for a party seeking to be elected to government to be pillorying the one Jewish person, a Jewish woman, elected in this current election for being the member of the wrong Jewish organization? And what will this mean to most people that I'm a member of JVL rather than JLM? What on earth does that convey to the electorate?
And so our audience understands. I mean, as you say, the response has been very strong and it's been very widespread amongst a certain part of the Labour right, but also the Jewish community. You've got the Board of Deputies, you've got the Jewish Leadership Council, you've got the Community Security Trust, and as you say there, you've got the Jewish Labour Movement. I mean, what have you done to provoke this much opposition? What's your understanding of why these groups are so upset?
You obviously know a lot of the history, and I'm sure many of your viewers do as well. JVL, Jewish Voice for Labour, was set up in 2017 by people who had a lot of familiarity in most cases, with working for justice for Palestinians. There's been a group called Jews for Justice for Palestinians in Britain since 2004. And for a long time, that group has had a role in defending the right to propagandize, I'd rather not use that word, to advocate for justice for Palestinians without being accused automatically of anti-Semitism. And that has become more and more common as the actions of the State of Israel have provoked more and more outrage, not only in Britain, but around the world. So a group that is Jewish, which is articulate, which is well informed, which is very well grounded in the Labour movement, for that group to be advocating for politics which are in direct contradiction to those of the right of the party, particularly their friends within the Zionist movement, but not only, for those people to be, people like us, to be throwing our weight behind a potential Prime Minister, Jeremy Corbyn, a leader of the Labour Party, who is obviously seen as a threat to the establishment in this country. I mean, never mind people who are friendly towards Israel. That's simply one element in the constellation of those who've been opposed to Jeremy Corbyn and to those who've supported him and to people like me. So, I mean, I'm very wary. I'm constantly warning people not to see this as a plot orchestrated from Tel Aviv. That's obviously not the case. This is, in fact, much bigger than that. It's about the way the Western establishment sees politics and sees what is admissible. Keir Starmer obviously has a view of what is permissible in politics, and it's very Blairite. It's very conciliatory. It's not particularly challenging to the powers that be. It doesn't challenge power relations in the country. And, you know, we and the people with whom we've worked very successfully, we do make that challenge. And I think that's what makes us a threat.
You've been suspended once before by the Labour Party, obviously once Keir Starmer became leader. Are you concerned that could happen again? I presume that's the one thing the leadership could do to stop you ending up sitting on the NEC.
I'm aware that there are people who would dearly love that to happen. I mean, I won't take over my role as an NEC member until after conference, which is towards the end of September. In October, there will be another meeting of the NEC, and the new members should be taking their seats on that occasion. I think there are people who would much rather I never got that far, but I think it's very important that I do. And I hope that if there was a move to suspend me or to exclude me between now and then, or indeed later, that the movement would rally against such an action, because it would clearly be a move to try and block out a whole current of Labour Party opinion. And left-wing Jews in particular, I mean, you'll have seen the mention in the Ford report of regret. He expresses himself very moderately, as is appropriate. The exclusion of Jewish Voice for Labour specifically, but Jews other than those in the approved mainstream organisations, and obviously the factionalisation of the whole discussion about anti-Semitism is also highlighted in the Ford report, and that's something that I would be wanting to pursue, assuming I do manage to take my place on the NEC. And I know other people on the left are very anxious for that to happen as well, particularly Black and Muslim members. I'll be going later this afternoon to a protest in Westminster organised by Diane Abbott and others, who are appalled that the leadership has offered no acknowledgement at all to the revelations in Ford, based on the revelations in the earlier leaked Governance and Legal Unit report about racism, entrenched racism inside the Labour Party. So, yeah, I think I'm at risk, but I hope that the coalition which built around Grassroots 5 successfully, very successfully, will continue, and that we'll be able to resist any such interventions. It would be an intervention by the leadership, however they spin it.
And so if you do make it to the NEC, I certainly hope you do. I mean, our audience will have seen in this member section, so there's 9 member representatives to the NEC. The left have done okay. They've got 4 out of the 9 seats. But on the NEC at large, which I think is close to 40 members, you've got councillors, MPs, lots of people chosen by Keir Starmer, the left's a tiny minority. So if you do get there, what can be achieved other than, I suppose, expressing your opposition or resistance to certain moves being made in the party?
You're right. The left will be a sort of tiny pinprick on the NEC. We're not going to be able to determine policy or to make changes to rules of the party or anything like that. But we are going to be able to question at every stage, particularly things like how a Ford report is to be implemented. We'll be able to participate in policy discussions. We, as NEC members, will be able to put forward motions which will then become sort of part of the proceedings of the National Executive Committee, and will be able to be reported, will reflect the views of members. Unfortunately, when CLPs pass resolutions, which they hope will go to the NEC, that really doesn't get further than somebody's bin, probably in the NEC administration, which is very unfortunate. But we, as NEC members, will try and represent members' views on the whole range of policy issues, on disciplinary matters, on whatever's current and necessary. And for heaven's sake, we've got Monday and Tuesday, you'll be busy, won't you, with the Tory leadership announcement. We've got this horrendous government, which is not going to get any better in terms of attacking workers' rights and mishandling the cost of living crisis desperately. Planet's burning. Hey, there's a lot for people who are on the left to do in the governing body of the main opposition party in this country.
That was Naomi Wimborne-Adrissi, whose election in 8th place to the NEC has caused such a furore. Personally, I think the guy who came first should be a bigger deal. That was Luke Akehurst. Akehurst's day job is as director of the campaign group We Believe in Israel. Its most recent campaigns include a petition supporting Israeli airstrikes in Gaza and a petition against the author Sally Rooney for refusing to sell her book to an Israeli publisher. Akehurst is also personally cozy with the Israeli army, tweeting this in 2018. Spent this morning with the IDF being shown Hamas attack tunnels in the Gaza border, at IDF spokesperson at We Believe in Israel. The walkabout with the IDF appears to have done its job. Later that year, in response to Palestinian protesters getting maimed and killed by the Israeli army, Akehurst tweeted this: "I do not accept that the IDF shot anyone who didn't pose a direct threat. Why on earth would they?" With views like that, it's no surprise a search for tweets from Luke about Shireen Abu Akleh, the prestigious journalist shot dead by the IDF, shows up no results. And it's not just Israel's war on Palestine that gets Akehurst's approval. This is his take on the Vietnam War. It was North Vietnam who did the invading. USA was on the defending side. Obviously, I would have supported the principle of resisting a communist invasion of South Vietnam. Now, we're in Labour Friends of Napalm territory here. Another war Luke backs is the criminal bombing of Yemen by Saudi Arabia. So he tweeted this in 2017. I can justify arms for Saudi Arabia. I absolutely do not want Iran to win in Yemen or anywhere else. He added that this was because the potential to destroy the aerospace manufacturing that drives the economy of northwest of England matters too. And to protect those jobs or to kill the people Akehurst sees as the bad guys, he also appears willing to go nuclear. In 2015, he said this, so at Tina Teapot 27, Trident could be used anything from one warhead in an uninhabited area as a warning shot to 40 aimed at cities. Aaron, it's a funny world, isn't it, where Luke Akehurst is welcome in Britain's centre-left party, but Naomi Wimborne-Idrissi, her being on the NEC, that's something which causes a massive hoo-ha, statements from all sorts of groups.
It's genuinely astonishing, Michael. I mean, this is a man, he came first. His job, not his hobby, not his, his side hustle, his job is as a lobbyist for a foreign power. Doesn't matter what country it is. It could be Israel, it could be France, it could be the United States, doesn't matter. His job is to be a lobbyist and to advance the interests of a foreign power. I find it deeply strange and disconcerting that somebody doing that for a job not only is a member of a national political party's executive committee, but came first with the most votes. I find that genuinely astonishing. And I find it strange. And I think if it wasn't coming in the aftermath of Jeremy Corbyn and, of course, the left taking control of the Labour Party, a pylon and effectively a cancellation by much of the national media, including, liberal media who think they're really good guys. I think if that hadn't happened in the last 5 years, from 2015 to 2019, I think that'd be called out by far, far more people than it presently is. It's astonishing. It shouldn't happen. Of course it shouldn't happen. The idea that a lobbyist for a foreign power becomes so senior and influential within a domestic political party is incredible. Saying that is not racist or anti-Semitic or bigoted. It doesn't matter what country it is. It can be an ally. It can be an enemy state. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're meant to be representing people within a domestic political party, advancing the public interest of people in this country. You should not be a lobbyist for another country. I would think that's relatively self-evident. Again, maybe I'm old-fashioned.